Hi, this is Silas Ram, AsianCultureVulture.com. I'm here with Anoushka Shankar, and we're going to talk about Shiraz, which is a reprint and a re-release of a 1928 film with Anoushka's musical score attached to it. Anoushka, welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm excited about the release of this DVD. Thanks.
When you first saw the film, what was your reaction to it? You obviously watched it without any sound or, just the titles explaining some of the action. So what was your first impression?
I mean, my main first impression was amazement, really, because I hadn't expected a film to have been made at that scale of grandeur and ambition in 1927. It was really something that blew me away to see that, and I was very excited by it because there was such a great scope for music, with all the kind of epic battle scenes, really intimate love scenes, royal courts, folk elements, so there was a real range, and I thought, oh, this could be really fun.
And then how did you go about, what was the process? Did you have a template? Did you watch some other films of that period with music? Or?
I did, and overall I'd say it was a process of shooting blind in the dark. Like it was the most ambitious thing I've taken on. I've made albums, multiple times, but I've never scored a film, and to score a silent film as my first film, just the amount of music required was so staggering. And once I started, I realized I just didn't have a clue what I was doing. So it was a process of trial and error, a lot of trial, a lot of error, and then slowly starting to find my method along the way.
And did you have a very clear idea of the kind of instruments and the music was that?
Yeah, well, fortunately, when they commissioned me to do the score, right from the beginning was the plan to do a live performance of the score. And I think that was a blessing for me because right from the beginning I had to commit to what the live ensemble was going to be. So I had to think in terms of who I was going to be performing with, and that would be who I would be writing the score for. So I think that limitation was actually very freeing because it meant, okay, those were the 8 musicians I was writing for.
Did you feel more comfortable doing that than having to, put a score on and it would just be like in any other kind of film, a musical score? What challenges did the live version have opposed to a?
Well, there were huge challenges to playing live because, again, never having done this before, I haven't had to play music synced with a film before. So the element of playing live but having to have the whole hour and 47 minutes of our live music be perfectly synced to every cue of the movie was very logistically challenging. However, I think having the show booked as part of this project helped me give the best quality music I could, because I get really inspired by being on stage and playing for people, and so it's really what brings the best out of me. So to constantly remember that we would be playing this music live meant me think in that way when I was writing the music as well.
And obviously you played in India last year with what was it? I heard the reaction was fantastic.
I mean, yeah, it was brilliant. They all the shows went really well. The audiences were fantastic. So I think for in India as well, to see this film, for a lot of people to see a film that's part of their heritage that they hadn't seen, that meant a lot to people as well.
You had the premiere at the London Film Festival. Was there any kind of difference in their reactions, or were they pretty much the same? There was nothing that came out of showing it here and showing it.
I think it was pretty rapturous everywhere. There was something particularly iconic about doing it as the world premiere at the London Film Festival at the Barbican, so that did feel like the most special one because it was our first. But of course, there was a different element of playing this Indian film in India that was very special.
Well, what do you think, Shiraz? What kind of message if any, does it have for us? What kind of relevance does it have for us today, watching a film like that?
Well, I think a love story is relevant across ages, and fundamentally this is a love story. beautiful representation of our culture, and I think it has relevance as well that it's a film about the Taj Mahal, which has been in the news for various reasons in recent times. So it felt quite poignant to be back in India and doing concerts connected to this
Sure.
iconic venue, place at that time.
And were you very conscious of recreating the kind of music that might have been contemporary for that time, or was that not so much a worry? Or
I thought a lot about it. I ultimately made a decision to be quite free, but my thought process was, okay, well, I could be faithful to the time the movie's set, which is the 17th century. I could be faithful to the time it was made, which is the 1920s,
yeah.
or to the fact that it's being restored for a modern audience today. And fundamentally, that's what I went for. I went for the fact that it was going to be modern cinema audiences who would be sitting and watching this film, and that you wanted them to be captured by the film as much as possible. So to create a modern, immersive sound that would help that happen felt like the most important thing.
Do you think it has any message in terms of gender relations and the the kind of debates we're having today? Does it have any when you were putting the score on, did you have any thoughts
There were
about
things I took note of and that struck me. The interesting thing about it is they weren't necessarily meant to be points of note at the time that the film is made. It's
Sure.
something that you're seeing with hindsight. But obviously this poor woman, the female protagonist, is she has so many horrible things happen to her. But first she's her family kind of is all killed when she's in a caravan as a child, and then she gets brought up by a potter. But then she gets kidnapped as a woman and sold as a slave. Luckily into the royal court where the king is relatively nice to her, but there are overtones and threats of the fact that he might rape her if he wants to, and luckily because he's interested in her romantically, he doesn't. But there's a lot of stuff about that, the kind of normalized situation for women, and yet in this film she has a lot of agency. The fact that she gets to choose who she wants to be with at the end, that she can kind of be quite clever about her situation.
For the time, she's quite an independent and strong figure, and as you say, makes her own choices. In terms of the recording and stuff, would you like to do more film scores and work
Very
in
much
film?
so, for two reasons. One, I really enjoyed doing this one, and it was a pleasure, so I'd love to do more. I found it very creatively fulfilling. Two, I've always been a touring artist, and since I've had 2 kids in the last 6 years, touring gets harder and harder, and I really get fed by being creative and having that, but I can't just keep on leaving to have that.
In terms of the overall experience of doing, would you, is this, again, would it be something that the live performance, it's not done very often, is that something that would interest you in terms of this kind of
it did feel like it was something quite unique for me, and it was lovely seeing audiences enjoy that double element of watching a film and having live music. So I'd love to do more of that. It is quite logistically challenging, so I'm hoping that there might be more festivals where we could put this on or something. But yeah, I hope we're not done with that.
And what's next for you, Anoushka?
Well, in a way, I'm going back to kind of making a new album of my own. I'm still touring with my last album, Land of Gold, releasing Shiraz on DVD, doing some other classical concerts as well. So there's a lot of things going on. And
finally, what would you tell people? Why would you tell them to go and see this film?
Well, selfishly, because I'd love them to hear my music, of course. But no, it's a beautiful piece of work, and I think it's a beautiful piece of our history as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.